So we have one theme. Let's go ahead and make a second theme. I'm going to copy and paste my entire theme inside of themes.js, and I'm going to call this dark theme. Okay. If you have designed something in Figma, I saw some really great designs for the modals and for the buttons that actually already were dark theme. Feel free to do a light theme. Just do something different. Something that can differentiate between two different themes. All right, so I'm going to change this to neutral 100, neutral 200. So we're essentially just kind of like flopping all these values here. It's going to be neutral 300. My text color is now going to be blue 300. My text color inverted is going to be neutral 100. My text color, I lied, this is going to be blue 300. Okay. Text color on primary is also going to be blue 300. Disabled, I'm going to keep as neutral 400. Text on disabled is also going to be the same. Our font is the same. And I'm just going to keep our statuses the same as well. You'll notice that like if I was actually building a dark theme, a lot of these colors are not going to be appropriate. But we don't need to worry about like if they're accessible or not for today. If you are building a system, please make them accessible. This is kind of just for demonstration purposes. So now that we've got two themes, let's use some state. Let's add some state to our application and see if we can make this work. Okay, so inside of index.js, we're going to import use state from React. Use state from React. We are also going to import our dark theme and our default theme from our utils. So dark theme, or whatever your new theme is, and our default theme. So right now we're just returning some JSX, and if we want to add some state, it has to be top level. So I'm going to refactor this. Oops, this is going to be our return statement. Here's our JSX we're going to return. Now let's add some state. So const use dark theme. And this is going to be set use dark theme. This is React hooks. We're going to initialize this to false. Okay, so if you haven't worked with hooks, I definitely would recommend checking it out. Use state is kind of the basic one here. What we're saying is we want some state. Here's our default value, it's false. And when you call this, it's going to return an array with 2 items in it. We are destructuring them out into 2 different variables. This is going to be our actual state value, and this is going to be our updater function. So now that we have state, we can actually go and try to toggle some of this. So I saw some of you in the chat asking why we weren't using theme provider. The short answer is we are. I just wanted to walk you through the process of how you would build this incrementally. So let's import theme provider from styled components. Import theme provider from styled components. Okay, theme provider is going to allow us to essentially pass our theme down through all of our different components. All we have to do now is replace this wrapping div with theme provider, and we have to give it a theme that we want it to actually use. Well, now we know we've got some state about which theme we're using. So let's say our theme, we're going to be a JSX expression. So if we are using dark theme, okay, we want to use our dark theme. Otherwise, we want to use our default theme. Now, if you have multiple themes, maybe you have like a bunch of radio buttons, maybe you have a select dropdown, this is obviously going to change. You wouldn't use a Boolean for your state value. At that point, you might use like an enum with different values, things like that. But we just have 2, so we'll just toggle between them. We now actually need a way to toggle through these different themes. We need a way to actually update our state. So what I'm going to do is just create a couple of buttons here to do that. I could use our buttons. I'm just going to use default buttons. I'm going to show you too, like if you haven't worked with React, like inline styling, you can also just do it this way. I'm just going to set a couple of different style properties. So I'm just going to give this a margin of 0, 16 pixels, 24 pixels. So this will set 0 margin on the top, left and right will have 16, and bottom will have 24. I'm going to give it padding of 8 pixels and a background of none. None. Okay. I'm just going to say here dark theme. And I also just need to add an onClick handler here to update our state. So onClick, we want to update our state. So set use dark theme, and we're going to set it to true. So if we click this dark theme button, we want to use dark theme. We also need to do the default theme, so I'm just going to copy and paste that. It'll have the same styling. This will be our default theme. And this will just use dark theme to false. Okay, very simple. The one other thing I'm going to do is wrap our primary, secondary, and tertiary buttons in a div with a little bit of styling, just so it's, we need to actually be able to change the background color so we can see what our dark theme would look like on our components. So I'm going to wrap all of our buttons here in a div. And on this div, I'm just going to set a couple of styles here. So our background color we want to change. So if we're using our dark theme, I want our background color to be the primary color of our default theme. So default theme dot primary color. Otherwise, I want to use our dark theme primary color. If we didn't do this, it would be really hard to kind of tell what our components look like in the opposite theme. So this is just making that a little easier. I'm going to set this to a width of 100 view width, height to 100 view height. This is just to make sure we can see our components. I'm also going to use some flexbox, so let's display flex, align items, center. This is what I was talking about earlier. So like when you do inline styling with React, these are actually camel case versus when we style components, it's just plain CSS, which is a lot nicer. And I'll just do justify content center, or space around, I'm sorry, space around. So this should give us a nice little visual. So if we come back here, we can see we've got a couple of buttons up here. We've got our dark theme and our default theme button. We've got our buttons here rendering. And now if I set dark theme, it changes the background to dark theme. I'm going to remove these modifiers because, like I said before, I didn't actually change the modifiers in the themes. They're just the same. So we can't actually tell that our theme is working. We're going to remove our modifiers. So if I change to dark theme, this is not working. So right now, if I toggle the dark theme, my components are not actually rendering the dark theme styling. Can anyone tell me, does anyone have a guess maybe as to why? This is our button code here. So if we take...
You're using the default theme.
I am using default theme. So this is not actually pulling any of the state information from our theme provider. This is just simply using default theme, and that's the problem here. Great, that was great, Matt. So in order to use this, anywhere that we see this default theme dot, I'm going to Command D. I'm going to highlight all of this. Right? That's a lot of instances. Actually, I don't want to just do it. Let's go through this button modifier section. Let's do an example here. So we've got default theme status. These are going to accept properties now. So theme provider is going to pass a property. So props. If we set this to props.status, should work. So these are, the modifiers are different because they're actually taking in parameters here. They're taking in props here. So we can do this here. Oh, shoot. So if I select all of the different states here in our modifiers, props, destructure that out, you can just set props here. Props. It's going to take a second for me to type out. So anywhere here where I have this open and close parentheses, I want to select that. And I want to fill those with props. And then what I can do is just, again, let's select all of these default to theme. I'm going to replace you with props. You'll see, so the modifiers are going to be a little bit different of a format than the traditional buttons. And I'll show you in just a second. That's why I'm not like selecting all of these. So with modifiers, we have these opening and closing parentheses that takes a parameter and it's going to return this CSS, okay? But when we're actually creating styled components like we do here, we don't have those. We don't have those opening and closing parentheses. So what we need to do is we're going to take props as an argument, and then we can replace this default theme dot, okay? So this will be props, props.primary hover color. So I'm just going to go ahead. This will take just a second. It's the only problem with not being able to like find and replace all, because they have different structures. I think I can safely select those though. So just be careful when you're auto selecting that you don't accidentally put the wrong format. So props, dot. So if I messed up horribly, we'll find out real easy.
Is it props.theme?
Yes. Thank you. Ah! Let me do, where'd you go? Props dot. So our styles weren't being applied originally because we were just hard coding in this default theme dot values. We can remove this now from our import. So again, for the modifiers, we can simply destructure props, and we can say props.theme, and then whatever we're using. In this case, status is also nested. In our actual components here, wherever you have this expression, wherever you need to evaluate the color, you take props as an argument, and then call props.theme dot, and then whatever value. All right, any questions? This is what it looks like, by the way. If we toggle, we can see that it's not working. Okay.